Suddenly there was a commotion from the quay, an unnerving barrage of shouts and calls and oaths towards which a gaggle of docksmen and passers-by were rushing. Dolly stood transfixed as Bertha approached her from behind, peering beyond her head towards the still swaying boat in midstream. A heavy wooden stave swung unexpectedly from the stern of the boat, and it evidently struck a crewman on the head. He had not gone overboard, but lay motionless on the deck, with several of his fellow crewmen surrounding him, some knelt over him, some standing helplessly to one side. The girls, along with the rest of the observers, watched in fascination as the boat edged cautiously to the mooring, and after some fuss and unfathomable discussion, the injured man was carried roughly ashore. The skipper, if so he was, babbled angrily in what could have been Dutch as the grim-faced sailors manhandled the victim. A group of local men pointed to a hut in reachable distance on the side, where a pair of washerwomen were waving white sheets in the morning sun. The pale, limp body was lifted waist-high between a mixed group of locals and crewmen and transported smartly to an imposing building on the City Road end of Sandgate, adjacent to where the washerwomen had been. The whole group was swallowed by its large doorway and disappeared from view. "Is he dead, Bertha?" Dolly asked in wonder. "No, he's just poleaxed. He'll be fine." Bertha was dubious. "Where have they took him?" said Dolly. "What's that place? Looks like a jail or something." A tiny woman in widow's black crept by them, a bottle-green rag held to her face as if in mourning. "That's the Keelman's Hospital," she said. "There's never many come out of there. A husband and a son armoured, and yon Dutchman, they only give him sparse care in there to them that's not their own. He'll be washed and shrouded before noon, and in a cart for the pauper's pit soon enough." The old woman forced a moan, a sobbing wail, and stooped even lower to pick up a rotten turnip from the gutter by a horse trough. She wrapped it quickly in the green rag and scuttled on her way. "Maybe that's where father is, in there," said Dolly after a moment's wise-eyed thought. "If he's fallen or been set on, he's a keelman by trade. They should have taken him in there. We have to go and get the missus in charge. Tell him his name and find him. That's why he hasn't got word to us. He's bad, maybe dying." Bertha sensed a rising panic in the child's voice. "All right," she soothed, her arm around her, fully expecting Dolly to bolt across the street at that instant. "Come, let's ask at the entry. They'll know if he's been there." As they entered the whitewashed hallway, no one was in sight. Through a half-shuttered window to their left, a quadrangle of greenery peeped through, with saplings and berry bushes rustled by a confined breeze. Dolly gaped in wonder at what appeared to her to be a garden within the walls of a house. The nature of the sight before her was beyond her understanding. As she stared blankly across the plain room, a red-faced woman in grey emerged from the furthest door. "Are you here for the young Dutch lad?" she demanded sharply. "'Cause he's very poorly. You'll have to come back." "No, we're not," Bertha explained. "I'm looking for my father, our father," she added, gesturing at Dolly. "He came up from Sunderland a fortnight past and we've not heard from him. We've come all the way from the way to find him. He's all we have, and he's a good man." The woman frowned. "Why, what makes you think he's in here? We only take keelmen in their bairns here, not any dockhand or tinker who's bloodied his nose with a bar scrap." "He is a keelman," Bertha snapped back. "He's as good as any if he got up here." "Aye, but here we look after our own," the woman retorted. "Do you not have a keelman's hospital on the way?" "I don't know," Bertha said. "I don't know where to look for him. He said he was off to the Tyne, so I reckon he must be here about somewhat. There must be reasoning in his goings on." "Or he's dead and buried already," snarled the woman in grey. The young girl stared back at her. She immediately regretted her words. "I'm only saying there could be 100 reasons why you cannot lay assault on him. He's likely back at home wondering where you two have got to." The girl said nothing. "All right, I'll look in the book of admissions. What's his name?" "Coxon," said Bertha. "Wilfred Coxon, of Deptford." The woman fumbled with her tiny spectacles that slid down her ruddy nose continually as she turned the dry pages of the largest book that Dolly had ever seen. Was this the Bible, she wondered to herself? The Bible was filled with the names of the dead. She knew that from the Sunday sermons that her mother had taken to years before. Is this what happens to people when they were dead, that the names joined the list of so many other strange ones in the Bible? Her heart pounded. The woman flicked through the pages carelessly. "There was only sparse concern last week," she said, "and the week before, aside from the coal pitching over at Shields, And that was surely before your father was even on Tyneside, was it not? You said a week passed. 2 weeks, Dolly offered. The grey woman studied the page with renewed interest, it seemed to Dolly. 2 weeks, she muttered. 2 weeks, sir. There was silence as she read. 5 men lost at Talmouth. She paused. Only 3 were brought here and 2 claimed. Her redness of face looked paler, pinker now. What name was it? Wilfred Coxon, said Bertha firmly. The woman peered closer at the page, her eyes screwed in concentration. Wilty, they called him, Dolly murmured. The grey woman's eyes flickered and raised slowly into a blank stare towards the rustling green shrubbery beyond the window. Her spectacles slipped down unchecked. Her hand reached slowly to her face and she lifted them carefully from her nose. She turned slowly to look at the 2 girls, their bleak raggedness crying out like damned souls in the white simplicity of that bleached room. Dolly would recall that look on that woman's face for many a long year to come.